Hi, everyone. Welcome to today's Career Chat. I'm Krista Harmon, a workforce development consultant here at the Kent Intermediate School District, and I'm delighted to have Alfield Reeves with us today. He's a photographer. He's going to share his journey with us. Welcome, Alfield.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Well, one of the things I love to ask our role models is when you think back to being a high school student, did you think you'd grow up to be supporting yourself as a photographer? What were you thinking back then?
I did not at all. I know growing up, soccer was big in my life, so I wanted to. My goal was to be a professional soccer player, and that didn't happen, unfortunately. But yeah, I think high school, I think I really didn't know at all, honestly, really what I wanted to do. Even entering college, I didn't really have an idea of like what I wanted to pursue or what I wanted to necessarily go into. But things worked out. So.
Yeah, and it's so important for me to have young people hear that, Alfield, so that they know that's normal and that they don't have to have
Absolutely.
it all figured out, that our careers really do evolve. So back in high
Absolutely.
school, soccer was pretty important to you. And when did you get that realization that that professional career wasn't going to happen? Was that right at the high school level, or did you play at college and then find it out then? Tell us about that.
It was definitely high school. So I think I know played ASO, American Youth Soccer Organization. I did some select soccer as well, and then as well as yes, I was on mainly select teams, and then I think it was I tried out for my high school soccer team. I didn't make it, and I think that was yeah, kind of a bummer of a realization for me as well. I mean, I still did some select here and there afterwards, but I think that was kind of a personal realization for me. So.
Yeah, I'm one of those people that never wants to discourage young people from being professional athletes. The world will tell them soon enough that that may not be
Right.
the path. So you
Absolutely.
graduated from high school and you knew you wanted to go to college. And what did you even start off thinking then when you went off? Were you undecided? Did you have a major going in? Tell us about that transition.
So actually, interesting enough, I'm thinking, so when I didn't make the soccer team, I think the coach had possibly asked me to be like a manager or something like that, like a student manager or something like that. So those kind of, I guess, managerial skills they kind of saw in me, or kind of leadership skills. So going into college, I came in as a business major, having no idea what I wanted to do with that. And then, because I started out, like my first creative medium was, writing and poetry. So eventually I changed to creative writing, but I kept my um, major, or kept my minor as business, so general business, my minor. And I had creative writing as my major. Um, Still not necessarily knowing like, okay, how am I going to be able to do like writing as a career and those type of things. But throughout, I think it was my sophomore years when I eventually picked up photography. So.
So when you think about your childhood and even the high school age, Alfield, had you always been a person that was a creative, that was expressing himself that way? When you look back at your childhood, were those clues early on that you were an artist of some sort?
Yeah, I would say so. I mean, I think writing, I know, so I'm originally from Liberia, West Africa. Came here when I was about 2 or 3. And I know there was a period of time where it was just me, my mom, my dad was back in Liberia. And she would like make me write, letters to him and those type of things, or just kind of journaling that experience. So writing was always something that was just part of my natural like ability as well. And I think that kind of led into, poetry and just, kind of expressing myself and my feelings and those type of things as well. So.
When did you pick up your first camera?
So sophomore year at Western Michigan University, a friend of mine named Brittany was studying media studies. So she was working on a project, and I would always wear like bracelets and things of that nature from that I had from home. And yeah, I was just, we're doing the session. I was just kind of asking questions about photography and those type of things. And she was like, yeah, you should, go ahead and try it. So I had $300 saved that summer for what I don't remember, but put on Facebook like, hey, anybody selling a camera? Somebody happened from my church to be selling one. So I bought it and just started experimenting on campus. So the first photo shoot I ever did was just with a bunch of friends from Bible study. Like we just went to the chapel, started doing some pictures. So then we had a couple of themes that I kind of put together and we kind of created, but I had really no idea what I was doing, but it was just kind of, I kind of wanted to do this thing and they were kind of there to support me. So
when you first started taking pictures, did it end up being kind of a natural talent that kind of emerged? Like, wow, Alfield, you're pretty good at that. Or how did that come to be? Because some of us, we're photographers, we take our iPhones, we take pictures, but how did you know that
Right.
maybe you had a skill set that people might pay you for?
Yeah, I think a lot of that came from other people. I think, confirmation from other people wanting to, hire me for senior pictures or their event. I know there was a sorority on campus that we kind of did this project with, me and a videographer and some other people just kind of did a project to kind of highlight some of the members there. So I think a lot of it was other people as well as like my desire to want to tell stories. So I think coupled with that creativity and photography ability, I think was kind of all put it together for me.
Yeah, my internet says it's a little unstable, so I apologize if I end up freezing. I'm going to try to keep pushing through it. So it was the ability to tell stories with your camera, which was really the impetus to continue down that road with photography.
Absolutely.
I love that. What were some of those things about those early photo shoots that you remember thinking, this is something I could probably take to the next level? What were some of your thinking at the time?
Yeah, I think it was a lot of, one of getting confirmation from other people and like, their encouragement as well. And as well as people actually like hiring me and actually paying me money. I think was definitely a big moment for me. So I think realizing that and kind of realizing that, okay, I can not only eventually do this maybe, as a full-time gig, but also just like being able to create in general. I think for me, as I continue to do it and continue to grow, whether that be my skill or whether that be, from the business standpoint, those aspects combined together started to be, started to make a difference for sure.
What I want to encourage young people who might be watching this is, just like Alfield had people who were encouraging him, try to find people in your own life that can encourage you. Sometimes we have people who can shoot that negativity at us. Why don't you share a little bit about the importance of having kind of that mentor or positive group around us, Alfield?
Absolutely. So interesting you said that. I got to speak at the Grampus Art Museum early this year. And the three things I talked about specifically was basically the three communities that had supported me throughout my career as a photographer. So the first was my faith community, and then being like pretty much my first models, and volunteering their time and their bodies to kind of invest in me. I think the other one was my business community. So eventually, I was got to take a business class to kind of help me from the business standpoint of that aspect. So a lot of the business, but also like other entrepreneurs and business owners or small business owners that I was able to meet and build connections with. So you kind of have this like other creative community or other community to kind of support you because they understand, what everything that goes into, being an entrepreneur and being a small business owner. And then lastly was just my creative community. So whether that be other photographers, other creatives from different mediums, painters, draws, whatever it is, like having all those different communities at different points in my career was very vital, or is very vital to my success, as well as encouragement and just I think having people that even if they don't do anything that they're not creatives themselves, but just they're just there for more support. They're there to come to your exhibitions. They're there to show up at different things that you have is I think it makes a big difference for sure. So that having multiple communities, just having communities in general of support is really important.
Yeah, that's beautiful to hear that you have three strong areas of community to support you. I love that. What would you suggest to a young person who maybe doesn't have somebody at home who's encouraging them? How do people connect with other creatives? How might one build some of that if it's not something they have naturally through like a church or other faith community, or even if they're new to town, for example?
Yeah, I think, obviously we have social media, which I think is an easy, automatic access. But I think it's going to events, kind of putting yourself out there, going to, the Gram has events every Thursday, or they have like an open time for people to go to. So I think it's really just finding places where you're going to find other people that are creating or are whether it be doing the exact same medium that you're doing or just in general. So I think once you're able to find yourself in those spaces, you're able to meet new people, be able to, learn from each other and, hopefully be able to find your tribe or find those people that kind of, you're able to connect with. So.
Yeah, young people, I want you to hear what Alfield said. You have to put yourself out there, and that's sometimes not easy for the younger generation with social media, right? So to actually physically go and connect, I love that. Thank you for that wisdom.
Yeah, that intentionality is very important for sure.
Yeah. So did you finish college then? Did you decide then you're switching at sophomore year to photography, and you decided to stick it out in the business degree as well? Tell us about the college journey.
Yeah, so I finished my time as with the creative writing degree and a minor in general business. I actually started working at a nonprofit right next to my church. I was a tutor coordinator there. So I was basically finding kids that wanted to get tutored in local schools and then finding tutors to come in and tutor. So I was doing that as well as still doing photography and shooting different things or photographing different things on the weekends or those type of things when I had time. But I was, I had a day job, was there for about 2 years before I quit my job and went full time. So.
That's wonderful to hear that you were able to work full time and you kept this dream going on the side, but it does sometimes take that time to ramp up before you make the jump. And I'm personally very inspired by people who make that jump. Tell us some of the thinking at the time. Was it kind of a leap of faith? Tell us how a person makes that move.
Yeah, it was all of the above. So I had, I think at that point, things were starting to kind of clash. So I would have part of my day job was also recruiting. So sometimes on the weekends I would have to go to fairs or different things that were happening, whether that to be to find tutors or find kids that wanted to get tutored, and that's usually would be the time where I would not just for my own self, but also be able to photograph weddings or photograph other things. So that summer, I think it was 2017, things started kind of to clash. So I was, kind of thought about man, maybe I should, go ahead and do this full time. And I remember having a conversation with somebody from my church, and he was just kind of telling me how I can always go back and get a day job if it doesn't work out. That was still an option for me, but it was a confirmation and also reminded me of something my mom always told me, which was just try. So, if I tried it and it didn't work out, at least I know I can go back and find a job or find something and kind of maybe have to, do something else and kind of figure it out. But that conversation, as well as starting to realize that, I had a lot of weddings that summer, and, so there was other things in the business aspect that was confirming and as well as affirming for me to kind of go that route. So yeah, it was a combination of all those things for sure.
Yeah, that word of mouth was starting to really pick up. So you're starting to get more gigs, and like you said,
Absolutely.
there's a balance where all of a sudden it's it doesn't make sense for you not to jump because the work was coming your way.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's so great. And I love that. Instead of just do it, I love it. Just try. Let's get that on a sticker because you just got to try it and get out there and not be anxious about it. So
yeah, that was something that she.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, that was just something that she always instilled in me. I think just even if I didn't enjoy it, at least I know that I actually tried it. I figured out how that experience was. So.
Yeah, sure. That's definitely a great inspiration for today for sure. I'll make that my own personal takeaway to try.
Right.
So being a photographer, you mentioned that you do weddings. So tell us, what are some of those myths about being a photographer that you'd like young people to know, both positive and negative, that people might think, well, that's the way that is, but maybe it's not.
That it's all glamorous. I think it's there's a lot of hard work. Even just from a wedding aspect to a regular photo shoot, if I'm doing for a brand or shooting for a magazine or something like that, there's a lot of work that goes in beforehand. So that can be prepping in terms of putting together a mood board, putting together some shots or some suggested shots that you kind of want to create, and usually those are just used as motivation, used as inspiration to kind of use from your own eye to kind of bring out for the client. So I think a lot of times when you just kind of see beautiful pictures on Instagram or you see beautiful pictures in magazines, it's like, oh, this is cool, which it is, but I think there's so much work that is done beforehand. And there's sometimes so many people that are involved in the process of creating something that often can be, people don't know or don't see necessarily. So for me, one of the things I love to do is share the behind the scenes process. So I want people to kind of see like the full process that I kind of go through, whether that be from planning to invoices to contracts to, you know, the emails and conversations, as well as the day of the photo, you know, photo shoot, or wedding or event or whatever it is. I think being able to see that whole process gives people more perspective. So not just like for myself, I think also for the client as well, so they understand what they're paying for. So I would say that's probably the biggest thing.
Yeah, it sounds like your business skills really came in handy, that this was a part of you, in addition to being a creative, that you're able to manage all this side of it. What would you like young people
Absolutely.
to know about the business side of being a photographer?
I would say one, be organized, or you know, find processes or things that can help you stay organized. And then another thing I kind of I learned was staff your weaknesses, which is basically like, you know, there might be things that you're not good at. You might not be good at, you know, the business aspect. So being able to find mentors or find people that you can basically hand those things off to, that can be able to handle it in a professional way, that will still allow your business to be able to flourish, and then you can kind of focus on the things that you're really good at as well. So
Yeah, that's a good point, that you always don't have to be the everything in it, that you can hire people
absolutely,
who have those skill sets. If you're like you said earlier
absolutely,
to me, like sometimes you might be able to do it, but you don't want to do it. And so
yep,
hire somebody else to be looking at that for you. For sure.
yep, for sure.
So word of mouth really got your business taking off. So you do weddings, and give us a sense of what kind of hours do you work? Obviously weekends for weddings. Is this something you, when you're an entrepreneur, that you're kind of working 24/7? Do you schedule
hmm
time off for yourself? How do you manage that kind
hmm
of side of your life?
yeah, I'm glad you asked that. So actually, I have a whiteboard, which is another thing that really keeps me really organized. So I have like pretty much 3 whiteboards in my room. That's just pretty much the smallest one. I have like 2 like huge ones, to kind of just write things down on, or have like a, you know, like a verbal, like a written down calendar, um, on there as well. So um, yeah, I think for me, there was a point in time where I think it was 2019 where I really just kind of got burnt out. I was just kind of working a lot, and not necessarily taking care of myself. So for me, it was really important to really implement what I call healthy rhythms, which for me, it's really just 3 things that I do. So usually what I'll do in terms of like schedule wise, I usually start my day from 10 to 12. So 10 to 12 is usually my me time. So that's for me to you know, do a physical activity for, you know, that be read or get in my Bible, whatever it is specifically. Just kind of for, so mentally, physically, and spiritually are things that I'm kind of taking care of during that period of time. And then I usually start my day at 12. So that'd be emails, invoices, replying to people, photo shoots, different things of that nature. So usually that's how my day goes. And usually I try to keep at 10 o'clock or maybe, you know, before that as a time to not answer emails after that period of time. So my days really vary. I kind of try to just kind of pay attention to how I feel and how my body is feeling as well too. So I'm not overworking myself. So I may start at 12, I may end at 5, I may, you know, end at 7 or end at 8, whatever it is. And of course I usually have to-do lists and things of that nature to complete, you know, per day. Um, but in terms of, yeah, so in terms of schedule, I guess you could say it's 12 to 10, but it always varies based on the day as well too. So
Well, I love that you know, you get to customize it because you're the boss. So you get to start your day
absolutely.
at 10 versus being somewhere at 7 a.m. So I love that.
Right. Yeah,
But
you're right.
you were saying in 2019, maybe your balance wasn't so great. How did that hit
Mhm,
you then as an entrepreneur, when 2020 hit and things kind of shut down? As an
mhm.
entrepreneur, how did you handle that disruption?
Oh yeah, so that was super tough. I think, you know, one, you know, being that this is my livelihood, is like, okay, well, I don't know what's gonna happen next. So for me, I think there was one thing in terms of like, okay, pivoting towards like selling print work, and those type of things. And then as well as just there was so much grant funds and, you know, unemployment and those type of things. So basically, you know, that was something that kind of became part of what I do as a business now, or business owner now, which is, you know, looking for opportunities, looking for people to, you know, fund various projects or fund various things that I want to kind of create. So yeah, it was definitely tough the first couple months. I think I lost like like $7,000 just in income, just from, you know, not having, you know, cancellations, reschedulings, those type of things. But a lot of the, you know, the grant funds and those type of things were really able to not only help me afloat, but also be able to add to my, you know, savings account, emergency account, which I think are also very important things to take care of for sure.
Yeah, that was going to be a question I had for you. Like, as an entrepreneur, is it really important that you do save for the rainy day and budget yourself and manage your life that way?
Absolutely. Yeah, I think it's a very, and I tell every, you know, entrepreneurs or people that are aspiring to be, you know, want to do photography full time or whatever it is. I think I tell them like, hey, if you want to, you know, eventually make that that jump, like, you know, essentially milk your job for as much money as you can to be able to build your savings, build your emergency account, because there might, you know, you never really know. So being able to have, you know, 6, 7, 8 months of income saved up in your savings, so if something happens and you can't work for a month or two, you know, you're able to be taken care of. So that's a very, I think it's very, very key for sure.
So I was wondering how you felt if I pulled up your website and shared the screen so people can see a little bit of your photography. How do you feel about that?
Oh yeah, for sure, for sure.
All right, I pulled it up while you were talking, so I thought, oh, this will be fun just to share. Obviously, this is your homepage, and how has it been even just managing some of this out of your business? Because you obviously have to keep your content fresh, and is that something you enjoy? Is that part of being a creative?
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, I mean, as somebody who's organized, as well as being a creative, I think uh you know, being able to have a website or landing page for all your work is very important. And I think I had a, which I think is another thing, is mentorship. So I had a mentorship a year or two ago, and I know website was some of the things that we kind of worked on, but just kind of having somebody who's been in the industry and has been doing it for a lot much longer than I have and has more expertise than I do, and being able to, you know, kind of learn from them, gain different expertise and different, you know, systems and things in nature that I can implement myself is very important. So
I love the variety of your work. You know, it's not
thank
like
you.
a wedding photographer where it's just all brides. You know, this is really
Yeah,
seeing your clients'
for
personalities
sure, for
and
sure, for
environment.
sure.
What are some of the other favorite things about your work? Obviously, just seeing these pictures, the
Hmm.
relationships, is that part of it? Just meeting people in addition to the actual
Oh
art?
yeah, yeah. I think that's probably one of my favorite aspects of it, just because I, you know, you meet people from all types of walks of life. So you get to hear stories, you get to hear, you know, what people do, you know, interesting jobs and those type of things. So for me, it's like, to me, that's part of how I, you know, kind of build a rapport with people, is asking questions. You know, I get to know them, I get to know what they enjoy, what they don't enjoy, what they inspiring to, what they're working on, whatever it is. And yeah, that definitely is another fulfilling aspect of it as well.
Yeah, that's great. What is, I'm looking here at the Sarah from Queens, New York. Do you get to travel then with your work? Is that part of what you get to do?
Yeah, 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 for sure. So definitely in the last 2 years, I've done a lot of traveling. So New York, LA, New Orleans, Miami, just in the last couple of years. So, you know, being able to, you know, be part of a team that's been creating for, you know, other people. So I've kind of just been able to come along, you know, do some behind the scenes photography, be able to kind of capture the process as it's being, you know, created. Yeah, and it's been fun, you know, being able to be in different places, be in different spaces, meet new people, as well. So all that is definitely a very, very, very enjoyable part of the job for sure.
I bet. Networking is one of those words, Alfield, that we try to teach in school. So
Hmm.
tell me about networking. How does that impact your business?
Yeah, that's interesting. So Spring GR, which is called it's a local organization that does business classes, which I actually went through. So I actually just wrote a blog for them about networking, and I can find the link and link that on it as well. But yeah, so I attended a networking event not too long ago, and I wrote a blog kind of about that. And I think it's a very important piece. I think one of the things is, for me, it's always just being yourself, especially if you're going to a networking event, and trying to be, either whether that be bring somebody that's with you that, you know, may have a different personality that you, that maybe, so say you're, you know, you're more introverted, bring somebody that's more extroverted, so you kind of have that balance, and then as well as just kind of like determining like, okay, I'm going to talk to 5 people, and kind of having those kind of set goals or, you know, 3 people, whatever it is, whatever the number is, to kind of have those set goals to be like, okay, I'm gonna go in here, meet new people, you know, kind of build some connections with people. So yeah, I think it's very important because you're able to, you never really know who you're going to meet. You never know who you're going to meet and how that person may be able to connect you to somebody else, or that person might be the connection that you're looking for. So, you know, word of mouth, I think, is the best marketing that you can't really beat. And I think there's other things, but I think that's the marketing. Having somebody vouch for you is the best you can get. So
Yeah, and for young people, you know, who might be watching this, it's sometimes hard to put yourself out there, but I love how you have a strategy and you, like you say, maybe push yourself to meet 3 people or set that little mini goal in your head and make it happen. I love that so much. As we have just a few minutes left, I'm wondering if you would characterize yourself more as an introvert or extrovert. How does that personality play into this as an occupation?
yes, I would say I'm a introvert with extrovert tendencies. So I would say naturally I'm, you know, more introverted. But I think when you're in spaces where you know somebody, or you're able to kind of just grow as a person. I think being able to, for me, I've grown, I feel like, more as a person than being somebody usually that's more shy or those type of things. So I think it's kind of just setting your own boundaries, your own standards, or your own kind of goals for whatever it is when you're going to be in spaces where you might be with a lot of people that you really don't know, and kind of being able to, okay, I'm going to try to meet somebody or try to get to know somebody, or just kind of start a conversation. I think once you do that, you kind of just naturally, especially if you're able to connect with them easily, you just naturally are able to be yourself and just kind of engage. So
What's the dream? Are you living the dream? Is there something else out there, Alfield, that you want to achieve? Tell us about that.
yeah, I mean, I would definitely say I'm living the dream for sure. I think being able to, you know, I think last one was 5 years being full time, which is crazy. So that in itself, I think for me, the freedom that I have to be able to, you know, take time off, or just kind of, you know, attend my friends' events, or, you know, go to different things for, you know, family and those type of things, I think for me is what makes this most enjoyable. And as, you know, as well as the work and the people I've been able to meet and the work I've been able to create and the connections and travel and all those type of things. So yeah, I would say for sure I'm living the dream. I think I would love to live in a city like New York, or, you know, kind of travel more and those type of things. But as where I'm as of today, I'm very grateful to be where I'm at. So
That's fantastic. With our last, thanks for putting that link in.
yeah,
For
no
the
problem.
last minute, you got some young people who are watching this that think they might want to be a photographer. What's that mentor word of wisdom you want to give them as we finish up?
Just try. You know, back to what my mom said, I think just try. And then I think something else that I've kind of learned, you know, just in business, which I think a term people have always heard is, which is shoot your shot. But I think about, you know, being able to work with different clients, and sometimes you have to go after the things that you want, and, you know, business is not always going to come to you. So I've been able to work with the Grambus magazine for about a year and a little bit some change. And that was something that I, you know, shot an email to, you know, one of their photo editors, like, hey, this is who I am, it's what I do, examples of my work. And I've been able to, you know, kind of work with them, you know, for you know, about a year or so. So sometimes I think it's really important you have to kind of go after the things that you want. And, you know, sometimes you'll get it, sometimes you're not, but just try.
Just try. That's the golden wisdom for the day. Alfield, I love it. You've been a great career mentor. Thank you for sharing your journey with us and your wisdom and your experiences. And hopefully some young person will just take this as an encouragement to take that next step in trying, and that they'll be as in their dream job like you are. Thanks
For
for
sure. Thank you
being
for
here.
having me. Appreciate it.